Tell me when you get it back. You got it? Tell me when you have it. Do you want me to start? It's right there. It was right there. Go back.
Recording in progress.
Buenos dias. Calling to order the special meeting of the Finance Administration Committee of Tuesday, July 16th. It is 9:10 a.m. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Chair Suddeth
Present.
and Director King Meredith. We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. I will now ask the interim Deputy General Manager, Justin Lovell, will you please lead us through the remainder of the agenda?
All right, good morning. Item 1 on the agenda is to accept the minutes of the June 13th, 2024 Finance and Administration Committee meeting. Madam Clerk, have we received written comments on this item or request to speak?
We have not. If anyone wishes to speak on item 1, please approach the podium or raise your hand in Zoom. Seeing none, we have no public comments.
Madam Director? Yes. Do you have any comments on the minutes?
I have no comments, but I would like to make a motion to accept the minutes.
Okay, I concur. We can move that.
I'm gonna just miss that.
Next item.
Okay.
Next item.
All right, item 2 on the agenda is to review an overview of West County Wastewater's insurance. Madam Clerk, have we received written comments on this item or request to speak?
We have not. If anyone wishes to comment on item 2, please approach the podium or raise your hand in Zoom. Seeing none, no public comments.
Okay, to today's item, I just wanted to give you a brief overview of the insurance that we have at West County Wastewater, some of the different policies. And if just wait 1 second so we get the PowerPoint up. Yeah, so this will be really a high-level overview. I mean, there's a lot of items that we can cover. So just if the committee would like a deeper dive, we can definitely let me know at the end of the presentation. That's something we can schedule at a future meeting. Let's see, this one work. Yeah, yes, work for you. Thank you. So we are a member of the California Sanitation Risk Management Association, which is CSRMA. CSRMA is a JPA that was established in April of 1986, and it currently has 60 member sanitation agencies all in California, and it's administered through Alliant Insurance Services. CSRMA was established in the mid-'80s. There was an insurance crisis. The insurance costs were ballooning. There were many agencies were losing insurance coverage. And so many public agencies started forming JPAs as as a form to really to partially self-insure themselves and really look at mitigating risk. West County Wastewater was one of the original members of CSRMA. So there was, I don't recall the exact number, but we were one of the dozens who initially came together and formed CSRMA in 1986. So CSRMA is shared where there's kind of two different there's pooled policies where there's risk sharing between the member agencies. So essentially it's a type of self-insurance up to a certain limit. And then there's the ability of group purchasing, which is the ability to, as buying power between all the member agencies, but you're not risk sharing. So it's just the ability, it's really just a kind of a ability to buy different insurance coverages and having better terms and negotiation as a group, but it's all individual. Can you go to the next slide? And so so CSRMA has, there is developed and it presently operates risk management and loss prevention programs for public liability, environmental impairment, auto liability, public errors and omissions, property losses, employment practices and liability, and workers' compensation risk. And so this is the list of the different types of insurance that we have, plus some of the limits. This is kind of our individual limit, not necessarily the pooled limit for all of the member agencies, but so the pooled liability program, which is really the general liability insurance. So between the pooled programs, about $15 million in coverage, and then there's an additional excess insurance policy that covers all the member agencies. We have participation workers' compensation program, which covers claims up to $750,000, plus there's additional excess insurance. And we also have property insurance. So our current insurance, $9 million. Across all the member agencies, the current insured value is about $8 billion between the 60 member agencies. We also participate in the crime insurance program, which is about $2 million. And then the last several years, we have also been purchasing cyber insurance program. There's a couple other programs. There's trying to blank on the title. So there's some other insurance kind of layers that are in here as well for different types of for different types of coverage. So let's see here. Let's move on just to give you an idea of what deductibles. If we do, can go to the next slide. If there are, this is kind of the general deductibles of different items. And so, the way it works is if there is a claim, we go through CSRMA, so they are our claims administrator. They certain dollar thresholds. A lot of times what would happen with claims is we do come back to the board and report out what's happening related to those claims and settlements, but the administrator, different thresholds, it's $25,000 and there's a $50,000 threshold and there's a $250,000 threshold for claims. But these are our deductibles of what we would have to pay. So it's $100,000 for essentially the general liability claims. Any employment claims is $25,000. So if you also recall, we had a discussion late last year that they've, as part of the risk mitigation strategy, the CSRMA board has implemented different policies to be able to keep our employment claims deductible at $25,000. We have to annually certify that the management staff, as well, board of directors, you had to take additional training that we're going to have to do to maintain that deductible. Otherwise, the deductible will be up to $50,000. And it's just part of the overall kind of program that CSRMA helps us administer. It's really, if we're looking at risk, it's providing training opportunities on just about anything that we need and through different platforms and partnerships with LCW, which is another law firm that provides dozens of webinars and trainings for management on supervision practices. So those occur every year that we participate in. So other ones, there's error and omissions. That's 2,500. That's kind of something having, like, say, a board of directors or any, just more of a, just kind of a practices or what somebody says could cover into that. Sewer backups, there's a minimum of $10,000 deductible, which are across all of our member agencies because they are all sanitation agencies. Sewer backups and SSOs and property damage related to sewer overflows, that's the biggest liability expense across all our member agencies. And so anytime that we can, whatever we do that's going to reduce that possibility, reducing, part of our program of maintaining our system, CCTV lines, doing the maintenance, that and documenting that information is just helping us mitigate all the risk. There's also $2,500 auto medical payments, and then all the member agencies there's dam failure. We don't necessarily have a dam necessarily in our area, but there's there is probably a San Pablo Dam. I forgot about that. I was saying if there's and that impacts our service area, there's also a liability there. They're more than we realize, I suppose, with all the reservoirs and water storage in the area. So let me just go on to the next slide. Let's see here. So there's a couple things that have been happening. This last year, our insurance went up is approximately 11% from the prior year, and so there's quite a few factors that are really happening within the insurance market, and because we're in a pooled program, we have some level of protection. Because we're, as an agency, we spend approximately $600,000 a year, a little bit more, just to maintain this insurance coverage. And so that includes, the workers' compensation, which is mandatory through the state of California, our general liability, and our property. So a couple things that have been, within there's an increase of exposures, right? So for us as an agency, that can be, the amount of payroll, because that impacts our workers' compensation coverage. So the more our payroll goes up, the more the amount of coverage that we need to have for workers' compensation purposes, because it is tied to somebody's salary for if somebody is injured on the job. Also miles of line. So we haven't really been expanding as an agency, but as other agencies holistically, if they've added more sewer lines, that increases the exposure. And as agencies increase the number of autos, that also increases the exposure. The other thing is the loss of just losses. So we have the claims, right? So as we have more, as an agency, there's more claims. Individually, the CSRMA looks at our claims as well, and that determines how much, what our costs are going to be on the following year, because they have what's called a retrospective plan. So they group each year individually and look at claims that happened within that calendar year, or within that 12-month period. We have our liabilities on a calendar year basis, and our property program, workers' comp, is on a fiscal year basis. Other issues that happened is reinsurance market. So as all insurers, what they typically do is they don't want to pay claims out of their pocket. So insurance companies buy reinsurance from other companies, and then they go and tap into the reinsurance market to pay claims on their insurance. And so in the last couple of years, the reinsurance market, many companies have been pulling out of the reinsurance market. And so it's difficult for insurance companies to have this reinsurance. So it's this extra layer of protection. So that's gone away. And the other piece is, in 2017, with so many fires in California, it was the largest amount of property damage. We're just talking the insurance market in general in the state of California. There was a huge losses because of payouts from, it was the largest amount of property damage. I don't recall the exact number of how many billions, were from all the fires and the property destruction during that time in 2017, as well in 2018. And so just the insurance market itself they are, looking to, want to make money. So whenever time they have a huge amount of claims that they have to pay out, they have a lower appetite to insure others. And so that is kind of, those are just general challenges. Also, there's, they're working on improvements in risk modeling, but right now, at least on the homeowner side, there's not much ability to factor in kind of individual, kind of what individual areas are doing to mitigate the risk. So these are, overall, these are challenges. I would say this, we're maintaining our coverage. Even though, costs are going up, we've had, through the different layers of insurance, we've been able to keep our coverage and, meet kind of really just as our risk mitigation needs of the agency. So if anything does arise, we do have insurance to help cover those costs. And so I just want to just stop there and just ask if you have any questions or anything we want to get into just about our insurance coverage.
Thank you, Justin. Dr. King Meredith?
Thank you, Chair Sutter. Thank you, Justin. Yes, I just had a couple, and you touched on a couple of questions that I wanted to hear a little bit more, and it was about the fires and the claims. Our risk for claims, although the fires weren't generally in our area, but being as a pool, within the pool has to take on so much of that monies in order to go across the board in order to be able to pay for those claims. So how are we looking as far as, I know it's a risk, but has that inflated us in any way of our insurance?
It's our costs have gone up.
The cost, yes.
They've seen, they're not, they're the forecast, as they're talking with our insurance provider, is it looks like it's stabilizing as long as there's no big catastrophic payout, right, that happens in this near future. But it's in a much better position right now. But we have had significant increases over the last several years. Just this last year, as I mentioned, it was 11% increase on our liability insurance. Compared to the prior year, which isn't as bad as I say probably on the homeowner side. If you've been reading the news about like some insurance, whether they've been pulling out or it's been drastically increasing, 30-40% on the homeowner side. So we haven't seen that huge increase, and I think partially that's because we have this pooled risk-sharing model, and so claims up to a certain dollar threshold are kind of covered through the pooled program. So we're as an agency owner, right, is kind of like we're our own insurer up to those initial $500,000 or $750,000.
Okay. Thank you. I have one more. The sewer backups, and I know you spoke up, you touched on that, and the minimum, the minimum cost, for sewer backups. But usually, is it an offset not only for the property owner when they have these backups? Is it the monies that are there for the individuals? Say, for instance, it's not their fault that their lateral, messed up. But is there any deductibles for these individuals, property owners, when you have these backups?
Well, that would depend on their individual insurance, but if it's determined, so when somebody calls and says, we have a sewer backup, or we see, out of the clean out, there's, our CSO crews will go out there, inspect, clear the line, right, and see what the issue is. So if it is determined that it is like our sewer main that's caused the issue, then we would initiate, through the homeowner, give them forms to initiate a claim. Okay. And then we have a claims adjuster who will go and do an investigation and come up with, and say, okay, their cost for repair or fixing the damage done to their property, due to the water and that mitigation, then we get a bill and pay for it. Their property, their homeowner's insurance, if it's determined that it's ours, they would probably that would be additional cost like on our insurance. But we would we get billed directly from CSRMA for those amounts up to the deductible. And so once we pay that deductible amount, then the insurance will cover the remaining
Would kick
balance
in.
if it makes it that high.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Justin. Okay, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions, Justin. Actually, you plan to take this to the full board, right?
I wasn't planning to. If you feel like it is be useful information, we could plan to do that in this fall as a committee. If you would like to recommend that, we can do that.
I think so, but likely with a few tweaks.
Sure. Yeah, this is.
I'm anticipating questions because I know that at least 2 board members have asked questions about the insurance before. And let me think about whether it should go to the full board. My specific question was on the examples of the training. I think it would be helpful to know the that are required for the executive staff and what are the examples of the trainings that are required for the board members in order for to keep our deductibles at the very reasonable level of the 25,000 for employment claims. I think that that's like really important for both the staff to know and the board to know, and that they need to know that those are not optional, that those are required trainings in order to keep our deductible from going high. I was at both the CSRMA at CSDA and the one in Monterey. So I think that knowing what they are and when they're available and having a deadline to complete them should be, even if we don't present this to the full board, but maybe Ms. Nicole having it sent out and saying this is required and here's your deadline to complete should be sent out.
Sure.
The other thing is even bringing attention, because both of you and Andrew just said something really quick that I know, and I know that Miss Annie knows about the San Pablo Dam and the reservoir. But when you look really quick and you see, oh, 250 for dam failure, it's really easy to let that go over your head and think, oh, well, we don't have dams here in West County, right? And not realizing that, yes, we do. We are affected by a dam failure. And a 250 deductible can be pretty big. And we have reservoirs that are technically part of that dam failure, right? So I think that bringing little things like that to people's attention, that could really, we could take a hit for that. It's not, we've been doing what we can to mitigate that damage, but we do need to know that that's part of our, that could be part of our fiscal responsibility. The other thing is that do we have a strategy to mitigate any of these anticipated challenges that you brought up? I was on a call, I think it's been 2 weeks now, with Commissioner Lara, the state, anybody who looks at this later, he's a California commissioner, insurance commissioner, Ricardo Lara, and our State Assembly Member Buffy Wicks for this area about what's going on with insurance. I was trying to look at my notes on my phone so I can figure out when it was, but I think it was 2 weeks ago. Talking about what's going on with insurance. It was a bunch of us who asked for this call, and they were talking about in every other state, the insurers use this catastrophe modeling to calculate their rates. But California has the insurance company use historic loss data over like the last 20 years and these other models. Because you mentioned risk modeling, right? And everybody was up in arms about these insurance companies pulling out, and then people are left without insurance, and California has its own insurance. I forget what they call it, but they have an insurer.
Fair.
Yes.
The fair program.
The FAIR program, and that's usually small business and residential, where they can participate in. But I think for us, I think the concern is that even though we're not participating in that, it's still driving up insurance costs on the commercial end. So I think what I would like to know is, and you don't have to answer these right now, is have we built in a strategy to mitigate some of these anticipated challenges into our strategic plan on the fiscal side? So I know we're paying about 600,000 now, but have we built that in because these rising costs, I don't see them stopping anytime soon. So have we built that in? We just took a look at our budget, but have we built that in? If we're looking at 11% now, but when we were at the last CSRMA meeting this spring, that trajectory looks like it's going towards 12 and then 13.5 and 15%. So my recommendation is that we need to be following that trajectory, even if it's a safe trajectory, and it doesn't go up to 15%, but we need to be adding that buffer just in case into our own budget, just in case. I would rather build in a 12, 13.5, 15% buffer in case it does get to 15% than to be short. And maybe it doesn't get to 15%, but it might get to 18%. And I would rather us be more conservative.
Right.
So that was it.
Sure. Yeah, if I can just add what CSRMA does, right? So we are, as participating in this joint pool, they're doing a lot of work, kind of
Yes.
mitigating, trying to make sure that the insurance that we have, insurance offerings, a lot of it, this is on the excess market, right? Because we're self-insured up to a certain cap. So one thing that the CSRMA did this last year, well, it became effective this year in 2024, is they've essentially created their own reinsurance. Mari, it's called the Clean Water Insurance Captive, which is part of they broke it off as kind of a separate company, or a separate group out of CSRMA, kind of a sub of the JPA, that reinsures our pooled layer of liability insurance. So that creates an extra layer of protection that so what they're able to do is take this dollar amount and reinvest it, because that's what insurance companies do, right? They take the premiums that they're receiving and they're investing those dollars, hoping that they don't have to pay them out in claims, right? That's kind of the whole insurance market. And so CSRMA is doing something similar with this, the captive insurance company, which was created to create an extra layer of protection of excess insurance. So we can go to so if there's a claim, if an agency has a claim that goes above the pooled layer, then the next layer is this captive insurance, which is $750,000. So you go from $500,000 to $750,000. And then there's additional reinsurance layers that each of us have. And so those are either, there's, we have just the name of the companies that are insurance, like Munich and Berkeley Public Entity, are different layers. So there's actually 3 different layers of reinsurance that, as a CSRMA member, that we have access to if claims end up being so large. But if we have a claim that large, it's probably related to something bigger than just what happened in our agency. So that impacts if our other member agencies have similar size claims, then we would have to look at it. But they have been doing, as CSRMA themselves, with the assistance of our administrator, Alliant, and the other companies that are assisting us, they have looked at this, right? And that's why this clean insurance company was created out of this, to help us just have an additional layer of protection against the market increases, so we can reinsure ourselves, essentially, is what's happening. And then just the other thing is we have, I think it's just That could be additional discussion as, we've talked about financial forecasts. We are doing some updates, but we know in the near future, we are going to do a more deep dive because very soon, in a little over a year, will be time to look at our next 5-year rate plan. And so this is while it's not the largest expense, it's a very critical expense that we need to maintain for our risk managing our risk exposure of the agency.
Correct.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. And the cybersecurity, just so you know, I was at a summit this past weekend with at UPenn, and it was a huge discussion. It was a huge discussion. Smaller water agencies are getting hit like you wouldn't believe with cybersecurity issues and getting locked out of their systems. And when we were at Naleo 2 weeks ago, it was a huge discussion. So I know a lot of people aren't paying attention to it, but cybersecurity threats, they are hitting agencies left and right.
Yep.
And I know we all heard about the bank, what happened with the bank, but it's happening with utilities a lot more than we could even think about. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's a big. It's becoming more and more, and most of the time when they go look at how did it happen, somebody clicked.
Somebody clicked an email, a link in an email.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of phishing emails. I'm sure everybody here gets them.
Everybody gets them, so
Everybody gets them.
that was the other one that I wanted to make sure that, along with the examples of training, is another one that we just underscore for the training.
Yes.
That we just maybe just send out the memo again about, I'm sure you heard about the recent breach or the recent, because I'm an AT&T customer, and I just got,
Oh, sure.
I received one email that said, oh, it wasn't, none of your personal information. And then I just got a second one early this morning that said, oops, it was worse than we thought, right? At first it was like, oh, all of your information was breached. It was, they have your text messages, but they can't read them. And then this morning was like, okay, we made a mistake. Maybe they can read all of the text messages. It was just the emails back and, it was just, the numbers back and forth between parties. But now they don't know. Now they think that they have all of the text messages that were sent back and forth between people. So I just think it's just really important that people are aware that these cybersecurity threats are real.
Yes, and we do, just so it's on the record here, is that is something that we do have several layers of protection through our IT firm, plus the cybersecurity, and we do have monthly training and phishing test. So it is
Yeah.
it is something we're actively working on because it's very aware that
Yeah.
it's a real concern and it's happening all the time.
Yeah, I just wanted it on the record since it was on the sheet about the types of insurance coverage and why it's important.
Right.
Okay, that was it for me. Ms. Director, did you have anything else? Okay, and we didn't have any public comment on this one, right?
Nope, there were no public comments on this one.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So item 3 on the agenda is reports on issues or matters pertaining to the work of the committee. Madam Clerk, have we received written comments on this item or requests to speak?
We have not. If anyone wishes to speak on item 3, please approach the podium or raise your hand in Zoom. Seeing none, we have no public comment.
Director K. Meredith.
I would refer my eyes over for our board meeting.
Did you
I
want
would
to,
report out, yes.
you're going to wait to the board meeting?
I'll wait for my board meeting to
Okay.
report out.
Thank you.
I have a couple more. Thank you.
The only thing that I will say here is that I was at a meeting, and this has come up twice now, and is that I actually there was a fascinating presentation on the use of, I've seen the AI presentation several times in several different ways at CASA, at CSDA, at NALEO, at this bioresources summit that I just went to. But I have not seen it except for this one that I just saw on using AI to assist with board meetings. And it was and I asked the woman if I could ask her to appear by Zoom. She's willing to do that at one of our meetings, especially at our committee meetings. They're using it instead of, by the way, it's Disability Pride Month, so that's one of the reasons that I was talking to her about it. They've been using it in their city council meetings to translate meetings. And instead of doing the typical translation where somebody has to dial in and they can hear it, this software allows, and it's individual, it can be individualized. And it has like, I believe, 40 some odd different languages where it's participatory. So it's bilateral. And so it's different than most of the software I've seen is that it's, and they have to be in like even the ones like City of Richmond, City of Berkeley, City of Oakland, they have to be on a separate, and it's a separate headset, or it's that they speak and then the translator speaks, right? And so it's like instead of getting 2 minutes, you get 4 minutes because it's going back and forth. This software, the uniqueness of it is that it's speaking and it's at the same time, so you're seeing it, and then the members of the board or the members of the commission are actually participating at the same time. And so it's very inclusive. It's an inclusive software. And the person who is speaking can actually see that what they're saying is more of a transliteration rather than a translation, which can often be wrong. It can often be, let me not say that word wrong, have errors, right? Like Google Translate often does. So I wanted to just bring that up and maybe schedule some time. Maybe we can, and maybe I can have her speak to you offline first, and then we can schedule something. So you can look at it yourself. You guys can look at it before we can bring it to an actual meeting. But they also use it, they've been using it in Nevada, and they are putting it through all of their HR systems. They've been trying to find ways to do more equitable solutions for people with disabilities. And they didn't just do it on their board meetings, they're changing their entire HR systems to be more inclusive in that way of people with disabilities, hearing disabilities, language disabilities, and they've received fantastic feedback from people with disabilities on what it means to be truly inclusive in their practices. And this is the first time I've seen this type of artificial intelligence really be used in this way. The second one was, I was watching Philly Water and SEPTA, which is Southeast Philadelphia Transit Authority. They're using it in ways to capture to capture incidents. And so when you were talking about insurance, they're using it in ways to capture breaches of their water systems so that they don't have to have 24-hour human interaction, but they can see the breaches before they become catastrophic. So I think that was something that I wanted to maybe connect our staff with their staff. And on the transportation side in Las Vegas, they're piloting a program where it's like when you walk through the airport, they do the body scan, but now they're piloting when you walk onto the platform of either their train or their bus. And they're piloting that. So there's just some wonderful things happening with that kind of artificial intelligence, which I found fascinating. But I'm a science nerd, so there we go. So that was it. I just wanted to, so the topic is really just how we can incorporate artificial intelligence in that way. I know we always talk about it when it comes to like speaking into the computer, but these are other ways that can be incorporated into the work that we do.
Yeah, well, thank you. I think that's something to consider, and I think it's a really good topic when we start our strategic plan
Yes, sir.
discussion this fall. Yeah.
So I'll forward some of this information
Yeah.
to you guys. That was it. When is our next meeting, Robin? I think does it coincide with our,
So we'll need to confirm the schedule for the next couple of months with you in consideration of the recess.
okay, thank you so much. With that, the meeting is adjourned at 9:48. Oh, wait, before I do that.
Just
sorry.
one announcement before we close out.
Okay, let me turn it over to the board secretary for announcements.
Just wanted to note that we have set up our IT person to be on site tomorrow from 3 to 6 to support you here
Thank you.
with your issues. So just
3 to 6.
3 to 6.
Okay, thank you so much.
That's it.
With that, the meeting is adjourned at 9:49. Thank you so much.